everybody, it is Romania Black, and this show has been a long time coming. We are watching Odd Taxi! Woo! So, if you are new to my channel, my name is Romania Black. By day, I am an English teacher, academic advisor, and speech coach, wearing many hats, but by night and by day on the internet, I am reviewing, reacting to, and discussing anime and manga and donghua and danmai and just having a good old fangirling time. So I started this channel back in 2020, and this show came out in 2021. And I know that because around the time I had been about a year into my channel, people started recommending Odd Taxi to me. They're like, you need to watch Odd Taxi. I like a good mystery. I like a good thriller. And so all I know about Odd Taxi is that it's a mystery. That's what I've been told because people were recommending. And if you don't know from my channel, I like to go into shows as blind as possible to give you all genuine reactions as if you're watching for the first time, and to talk about this show as if I'm watching it for the first time, because I am. So my discussions will evolve as we go in the shows, but I love mysteries because mystery series, when you react to them and talk about them blind, you go in with all of these theories of what you think is going to happen, and then as the series goes, they evolve. But I was told early on, like 4 years ago, I should watch Odd Taxi, and it has been on the polls. I have a Patreon where I have lots of Patreon support, and people have supported me on there. I poll shows that are going to be on the channel, and so this series has gotten so close to winning for years, like second place several times in the polls. And I was like, oh, it's just not Odd Taxi's time. And then I had a poll a while back of all of the second place series that have been on my channel that I hadn't gotten to yet. Some of the second place shows I have gotten to over the years because they have eventually won polls and things like that. But I had a number that had been second place bridesmaids, had never been the bride. And by one vote, Odd Taxi won. Oh, I love polls that are like this, where it's like not a clear winner and you're waiting to the last minute and people get strategic. They're like, I'm going to move my vote at the last minute. I'm like, how dare you? So for those of you that voted for series that did not win this poll, do not worry. These series will be on future polls. I am sure I will get to them at some point. But Odd Taxi, I'm really excited for because, like I said, I've waited practically 4 years to watch this show, which is insane. And I'm glad I'm finally here. And it's not a very long show either. It's only 13 episodes. And maybe there's like, I think when I was looking on the streaming service, there was like one extra OVA or an extra something with it. I'll ask the moderators about it, don't you worry, to make sure I have all my bases covered. But at least week to week, we're going to be doing 13 episodes of this series. I'm excited. I've been curious about this show because it looks simple and it looks very straightforward and kind of like a very unique style. And I'm thinking, what am I getting into? But those are the kind of series that I get most excited for because I know nothing. I'm going in blind and we're going to find out together. So before we start this episode, I want to give a massive shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. These individuals on Patreon, I'm not sponsored. I don't get monetized by YouTube. Patreon is literally my support. So if you want to give a girl a shout out, throw her some bones, my Patreon is over in the link on my page. But these patrons, they donate a little bit extra each month because they're amazing, kind individuals who believe in the channel and like watching what I do. So I want to give them a shout out. So thank you to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bisa, to Damage3245, to Danger Zone, to Destiny Marie, to Dana Devorin, Ichu, Eric, El Cuno, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Linden, Liam Polzel, Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, as well as Willie Morris, Translucent Men, Sunspots, and Shimoyama. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I don't know anything about Odd Taxi. I do have two dogs, Ruby and Huckleberry. They have recently had food, but now they are being clingy. And so if you hear a dog barking, that is them. Also, if you're new to my channel, because of how YouTube works, there is a link to the description down below. Just go check it out there. There'll be a thing pop up here in a second. Go watch that link down below and then come back and we'll talk about the episode and go back through it and just break stuff down. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into Odd Taxi, episode 1. And we're going to check that link out down below here in 3, 2, 1. And let's jam. Gonna be real with y'all. Whenever the show starts out with a body bag sinking into the abyss, you know it's gonna be good. Oh my gosh! Hi! Okay, Odd Taxi! Right out the gate! I am so intrigued. So we're gonna break this episode down because now this is the discussion part, and this is Whiteboard Coon. Whiteboard Coon is my partner in crime, my explainer of all things, and as a teacher, of course, I like to bring a whiteboard every now and then out to kind of like break down stuff whenever it needs to be broken down, and this series seems like the kind that we're gonna need it. So interesting. So okay, I'm gonna look at this series based on what we've seen in this episode, as this is just Earth, but the artist has taken the artistic liberties of making everyone animals. That's just because they talked about Bruce Springsteen and Stevie Wonder, and I'm like, is this just like a parallel universe where it's all the same as Earth? They're just animals. We'll view it that way. I think it's a cute artistic decision. I often like using animals, anthropomorphizing people, because like Zootopia and stuff, you can draw out character traits a lot easier when they're tied to animals because it makes it a little bit more easier to digest and you can have more fun with it. So that makes sense. But yeah, we start this episode off with a very Twin Peaks-esque opening with a mysterious body vanished and a girl that's disappeared, but she might not be dead. For all we know, we don't know who's in the body bag. We also don't know, is this body bag in the future? Was that the very last part of the show? Are we starting with the ending and then backtracking? Who knows? We'll find out as we go, but I love a good mystery. Because then immediately we go back to Otakawa, our taxi driver, and the news about the high school girl going missing in Narima City, Tokyo. So, okay. So we need to break down our characters. We have Otakawa. Otakawa is our taxi driver, which, you know, now the title Odd Taxi, Otakawa, and they're the taxi driver. That makes more sense. This episode's called The Eccentric Driver, and eccentric he is. He's definitely a loner. Other things we can note is that he does not like people. He kind of gives me vibes of like my brother, though. My younger brother is kind of like an old soul, but he doesn't really like people either. But he has a really good heart. And my brother is the type of person that would loan you money to pay for gas, do anything, and just expect you to give it back. Like, my brother seems a lot like Otakawa. So I'm interested to see where his character goes to. But yeah, interesting. So she disappeared on the night of the 4th. We don't know what time, how long ago that's been, but she may have been involved in an incident. Okay, so then it says oral medication. So Otakawa, or Otakawa, however you want to say it, he takes some form of medication. We don't exactly know what the medication's for. They might tell us as we go through this. And my one dog is going to want me to play with him this entire time, so y'all might have to humor me. But yeah. And so then we go to... the radio show, we the Homo sapiens received the results of round 1 of the N1. I don't know what that means. Like, oh, did we pass? Of course we did. I like this radio show that talks about these guys that have suffered for 10 years. All I could keep thinking of the entire time I was watching was Dragon Ball Z Abridged, where Kaiser Neko and them have like the stew and the wombat, like the radio show where it's just horribly exaggerated. That might be more of a Western thing though, but yeah. The judges have no idea what they're talking about. So we have a privately owned taxi. So he owns his own taxi. And I think anytime we have conversations happening that seem superfluous and seem like they don't mean anything, I'm thinking, is there a reason this conversation is happening in the show? And they talk about like the people who are judging others not being as qualified. And so I'm wondering if that's going to come back. They also talk about collusion, which seems to be a theme in this series so far. But also they talk about this one student from the high school saying, I went to see round 1, but your jokes weren't funny. And then we get to see like the little safe driving and good luck charm. I actually have a good luck charm that someone sent me onto my channel, and I have it in my car. So that's fun. You failed to follow up while making the same jokes over and over again. Just watching you made me anxious. Interesting. And they're like, moving on, let's get some music. And so then we have this band, Mystery Kiss, which for being a mystery show seems appropriate. Supernatural Love Phenomenon, their debut single. And it's this like upbeat, hyper pop, bubblegum, sugar saturation. It is not my type of music at all, but I think it speaks volumes that our mysterious eccentric cab driver just lets it play and doesn't opt to change the station. He just lets it go. I don't know if that's supposed to signify that he's open-minded more so than we expect, or if he's not like we expect and likes this random pop music, or if it's suggesting that he's just so set in how he is, he'll just he's apathetic and lets the music play. We don't exactly know. We don't exactly know as we go through this. But yeah, so we have people on their phones, social media, all of this happening. I want to see if we get any images. Okay, so the monkey guy, he's 41. We established him. He's this 41-year-old janitor. We're going to get his name back on here in a second. But he knows Otakawa. And he's kind of like, I don't want to call him a loser because that seems really mean. But he is, we're going to say down and out. That sounds like a better way to say that. We also have the doctor, who is the gorilla. And he knows, obviously, Otakawa because he's prescribed him medicine. He also wants Otakawa to go to a bigger hospital, maybe with more resources, maybe. But he's so set in his ways that he doesn't want to move. Then we have the one nurse who I thought she was a sheep the whole time. She's an alpaca. That makes more sense of why her neck looks longer and covered in all the hair. Yep. She seems like she might be connected, though. She might be connected to the crime lord, to our criminal. I don't know if he's a crime lord, but he's the criminal. And also, she might be stealing drugs. Seems like she's stealing prescriptions. Now, the question is she going to try to get Otakawa involved, knowing that he maybe uses prescriptions? They were psychedelics, though, or psychotic drugs, so that might be a problem. Then we have our criminal over here. Our criminal here. And then we have the one cop, who the cop knows the criminal, but he also knows Otakawa. And he took the footage solo to give to the criminal in exchange for money. So he seems like an insider. He seems like an inside spy for the cops to give the criminal inside information. So that's interesting. Curious. But yeah. So then we have people at this bar where this, I think she's a kangaroo, where she kind of like is watching over by the bar that's hanging out. Okay, so yeah, the alpaca woman. We see her stuffing her backpack. She is stealing the drugs. Yes, we see her in the drug place stealing them. And then she walks by, and then she looks at the gorilla and then keeps walking. So I don't know if the nurse like has a crush on the gorilla, on the doctor, and he just doesn't notice her. So she's like, whatever, or she feels guilty for stealing the drugs. We don't know a lot about her, but she's clearly doing something. So something that's not legal. Curious. Curiouser and curiouser. Then we have this band, this girl pop group, Mystery Kiss. Now, they have the two cats and the dog in their group. I'm assuming the one cat, I don't know, she's still in the group as they're filming when they show that, so she might not be one of the girls that's missing. Then we have the gorilla. The moment he was cleaning a gun, I was like, oh, we're setting up some things. I mean, the body bag was enough, but the tone was definitely set early on in this series. Then we have this guy, it looks like a skunk, and he's like got a bunch of tickets and is watching the girl group, so I don't know if the skunk guy is going to have any bearing on this story or not. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And then we have the cab driver. And he picks up the one guy. Him picking up the one guy that's just out for social media, like, hits the wannabe influencer. He, like, that exchange was so awkward. That exchange was so creepy and awkward. Because at first I was like, is he going to give Otakawa a hard time? Is that going to be a thing? But then he just turns out to be this kid that just wants to get views on social media. And he talks about how people lie to get views. And he's like, okay. So, and then we see the one guy is going to the bar. One more bar. The Goo Goo Curry, which is fun. I feel like we're going to go back and revisit all of these places. So this guy is picking for information to see what he can make a post about. And Otakawa is like, interesting. I like this thing he says where he says, when someone asks me a question, I come up with 5 possible answers. And then I choose whichever answer isn't going to offend anyone. So that's, I mean, that itself gives him a little bit of eccentricity right there. And I bet you respond quickly with whatever pops in your head first. I love it. Why would you ask if something interesting has happened? He's like, well, I'm trying to go viral with a post. So he's like, all my posts, I want my posts to be spread all over social media. And he's like, why do I do it? Because other people have done it. My friends have done it. It's the thing to do. I like Otakawa's like, you're wasting your time on pointless shit, huh? I love that. And he's like, it's not pointless. Likes and follows represent a person's worth. And they're even used as evaluation criteria by job recruiters. Well, I guess it would probably depend on what kind of job you're getting recruited for. Presumably, because I don't think Otakawa has a social media that he was evaluated for his job. But then again, he runs his own taxi company. So he's like, what kind of posts go viral? He's like, things that are emotional, refreshing, things about poetic justice. And then he shows like a bunch of different example posts. And he's like, also posts about foreigners' perspectives on gender in Japan, which is oddly specific. So then they talk directly about Starbucks, which is interesting. They give the example of, well, working on a manuscript at Starbucks. He's like, I don't want to go to the dentist. He's like, having lots of cavities is an indication that you're loved. And he says, now when it said like your parents fed you mouth to mouth or shared a spoon with you when you were kids, I wonder if that had to do with like the animal, like the birds regurgitating food or something like that. And then the one person talking says, seriously, I have 0 cavities. It was precious. It was so precious that I wanted to hug them. I like that Otakawa's like, that sounds gross and a made up bunch of shit. And then the one guy's like, yeah, most of it is probably made up. It's interesting to talk about social media right there. Interesting. He's like, could we take a selfie together? What's funny is they have this conversation about social media and people making up lies and making up things just for views and appeal. And then the guy's like, well, that's not always true. But then he does the exact same thing. He makes up a story with the selfie that he takes with the cab driver, which probably goes to show that nothing is going to be as it seems in this show. And they're just setting us up with that right off the bat. Because, yeah, his post says, hold on. I was telling my taxi driver that I was having trouble finding a job. So he took my phone and was like, check this out. It'll cheer you up. And took a picture of us. That's a really lame post to go viral. Like, that's lame. But the point of it is that the criminal is in the background walking around, like in that post. And he's like, shouldn't we blur the faces? And he's like, well, I could blur your face. He's like, I mean yours. Whenever Otakawa was like, you should blur your face, I was like, I don't know. Has Otakawa been like jostling the mafia around this taxi? Has he been like, there is a little aspect about Otakawa that makes me think he's innocent. But then there's another aspect of him that makes me think like, can I trust anything he says? And that's so fascinating because of what people say about him as the rest of this episode goes on, right? He's like, are you saying I'm deceased or my face is indecent? And he's like, no, but it could be. Be careful and it might be. So then these two, they look like dogs. They might be raccoons. I don't think they're tanukis. They stop him. And they stop him and they're like, oh, it's you, Otakawa. And he's like, what does that mean? He's like, I've got a passenger, so make this quick. And they ask if they've seen the guy that is literally in the photo they just took. But yeah. And he's like, aren't you friends with him? So the one officer's like, what are you talking about? Now, the thing is, the cop that's the insider that is in fact friends with the criminal, Otakawa's probably telling the truth, right? But because he has a reputation of a taxi cab driver, they don't believe him, right? Because, I mean, who would believe a random taxi cab driver? But he seems pretty just straightforward and sincere about this statement. And he's like, I'm asking for convenience sake, use your head. So I wonder if Otakawa knows. He says, I'm asking for convenience sake, so just use your head. Like, don't screw this up. You know what I'm asking for. I'm asking because I'm a cop. So I wonder how much Otakawa is in on all this, or what he knows. He's like, oh, little bro, this guy's crazy. I guess they're brothers? Maybe not just, partners. They're brothers too. He's like, can't your brothers wait until you're home? Can't you brothers wait till you're home to argue? Oh, so maybe they are biological brothers and they're both cops. Interesting. Okay. He's like, we're good. Get out of here. Interesting. Okay. And he's like, bro, what do you mean when you said you were this wanted criminal and you are friends? And he says, listen, don't listen to a word that comes out of that taxi cab driver's mouth. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, he's a taxi driver. And he says, yeah, that loathsome taxi driver tells lies like it's no big deal. Uh-huh. Like, what an awful guy. Interesting. And the thing about it is, I like that this show is making a little bit of a commentary on kind of like the class system of it, because they talk in the bar about how he's a cab driver, but he's got a bad past. He was like abandoned. He's taking medication. He's eccentric. Like all of these factors that societally would make him a less credible source to believe in, when the reality is the guy that's the cop there is working undercover with the criminal. So it's just, making all sorts of commentary about appearances and deception and about like, first impressions. And Otakawa's like, I don't like him. He's anal about stupid little details. He's like, you have a license, don't you? He's like, yeah, I guess on the vision test, though. He's like, what? He's like, I'm scared now. And he's like, oh, well, you'll be fine. I have night blindness. He's like, that's even worse. So it's like, he says all these things, and then you're immediately like, you've just heard the one cop say that he's like a habitual liar. So you're like, okay, well, was he lying about that, or is he just being sarcastic? Because sometimes people treat lies, they don't see the sarcasm. He's like, why'd you become a taxi cab driver? And he thinks for a while as to the answer of that question. And there's the moment of silence. And then we see in the cab, like the flashback, we see someone driving that looks like a woman, and we see somebody in the seat. So the person in the seat looks like they don't have a hand. So I'm like, I don't know if this is a flashback, if their mom was a cab driver, or what this was. I don't know. So he asks out there. Now, when he says don't leave anything in the car, I wish the cab drivers would tell me such things. I, in fact, left my phone in a cab in Chicago once. It fell out of I had it in my jacket, and when I got out of the cab, it fell out of my jacket pocket and got left in the seat. Was not intentional, but we had to finally call the cab. Thank God they still had the phone. But the guy made us pay for the phone. He literally held my phone hostage and made me pay $40 to him so I could get my phone back, because we made him drive back across town. And we were like, you weren't gone that long. So after that, I've been like a habitual, like worrying about where my phone is and all of that. I was like, oh. But yeah, I'm like, okay. So yeah, he ends up forgetting the phone. He's like, and then they go back to the radio show that says this year, they're like, are you being serious, Shimbaki-san? We've been unsuccessful because we've been working with you. You can't say that public on airwaves. I like that these guys on the radio are arguing back and forth about how much they don't like each other and how unsuccessful the business is. And they're just doing it on the radio. It's crazy. And they're like, our next segment, cutting through this week's news. A high school girl has gone missing in Narima City. So I'm guessing the high school girl is staying at his house. That's what I'm thinking so far. Interesting. It'd be nice if she turned up safe. So the one guy calls back to get his phone, asks if he's gone viral, and they're like, yeah. Meanwhile, the one criminal he notices through the photo and sees the guy. And then we see him, the criminal, meeting up with the alpaca. We can pretty much make sure so they're all connected somehow. I'm sure she's giving him drugs, the cop's working with him, and they're all connected together. Okay. So far, we've made these connections. So then we see the girl, it looks like a cat. The student spoke with her family around 10 p.m. and left the house. Security camera captured her entering a taxi after leaving the convenience store where she was shopping alone near her home. So she's a cat. And after this, she went missing. Okay. So she was gone for 2 days and they submitted the reports. But then he's like, we see him sitting inside the house and he's looking around. He's seen on the news where she's missing. And he says, "Are you happy? You can run away whenever you want. I'm not trapping you here, keeping you tied up." But I don't know. He's like, "You chose to stay here." I don't know what to believe. I don't know why she doesn't answer. Is she dead? Is she even there? I don't know. We don't know if this is the high school girl or if it's someone entirely different. I don't know. The series makes it seem like, oh, that's the girl that went missing. She got in the taxi with the taxi cab driver. She's in his house now. So we think. That's what the show wants us to think. But then it doesn't ever talk. It doesn't have a see her. We don't get any explanation as to whether he's telling the truth or not. And we've had literally a character say he lies all the time. And then he tells a lie, maybe sarcastically, to the guy in the car with him, or not, and he has night blindness, which is a problem. We don't know what to believe about Otakawa. We don't know. And everybody kind of thinks he's eccentric and odd. So what do we do? He's like, "Why'd you come to my place? Are you hungry?" And we get nothing. He's like, "Well, I'm working after that, so I'll be back late." Interesting. I don't know what to do with this. So we go to the Goriki clinic, which is funny. The gorilla Goriki. And he's like, "I go to sleep while listening to Rakugo. I've already memorized it." And he's like, "Oh, the routine? Donraku's routine?" He's like, "I've got a Donraku eraser." So I guess he's one of the hosts on the show. It's an original one, the only one there is. But then she just gives it to him. I don't know what the significance of the eraser that no one else has. It's a one-of-a-kind eraser is. I'm curious. I'm also curious why she gives it to him and what the point of that is. I'm guessing maybe it'll have something to do later on. Interesting. He builds such expansive scenes, it's easy to follow. He's like, "I find it more boring than sutras." He's like, "It must be rough if you can't sleep when your mind is free from intrusive thoughts." So he has trouble sleeping. So apparently he has trouble sleeping and also has intrusive thoughts. So that's possibly a reason with the medication of why it's given to him. Okay. I don't know. I'm fascinated. But they all seem to kind of know him because maybe they've grown up around him. Interesting. He's like, "What do I look like to you?" He's like, "A gorilla." And he's like, "Well, you're not wrong." "Do you listen to Rakugo online?" He's like, "No, I listen to cassette tapes." I love the cassette tapes talk because that is such an ancient and outdated technology. I wonder what Rakugo is. Oh, it's a tradition of comic storytelling in Japan. Oh, that was the thing on the radio where they said it was really, really bad. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like unless you grew up in the 90s or earlier, you probably have no clue what cassette tapes are, or you're going to look at them and be like, "What the hell is this outdated technology?" It was high tech back in the day, let me tell you. The best was you could put the cassette tapes in your radio and record what was on the radio and not have to buy a CD. Oh, the ways in which we saved money back in the day. I had all sorts of cassette tapes. I would just record what was on the radio, and then I didn't have to buy the CDs. Cassette tapes were cheap. So yeah, they don't know how to rewind them. But we know about phonographs and telephone magnetos. They're in movies and stuff. He's like, "Drop the generation gap crap." I love that he's like, look, if they really don't know how to use things, they should, because they see them on media all the time. Interesting. He's like, "Why don't you get married already?" Why did they pressure him to get married? Was that an option? Was that a thing? And then they talk about Bruce Springsteen, which is really funny. So interesting. Okay. He's like, "I know a concession of defeat when I see one." He's like, "I'll get you a stronger medicine." So then the one cop's there and he asks for the camera SD card that has the recording in it, but he tells him not to go to the police. So it's like you clearly are working with an inside deal with somebody if you tell him not to go to the police. And I like that Otakawa is like, well, why wouldn't I go to the police? You're a policeman. And he's like, well, I imagine a wanted criminal armed with a gun might kill you if you do. And Otakawa is like, oh, okay. I love that he's just like, well, that was a weird exchange. I love he just kind of looks after that like, why am I getting involved in all these criminals? Why am I getting involved with this? So Yamabiko is the bar that we go to next. And that has, again, the musical group. I like that, again, the cat figures have masks on, but the one dog girl does not. Interesting. And we have our one guy sitting there like clicking likes on every girl trying to make a match. Interesting. He's like, my back's been hurting recently, which he's 41. I get that. Will you be able to do your cleaning job? They'll get the job done just fine without me. From society's perspective, I should be thrown out with the trash. My employers would probably prefer someone younger too. He has such a negative perspective about life, but I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him. And you're supposed to express support. So he goes to his profile, and that's when we see some information about him on the screen. So it says, looking for marriage. Okay. Born in Tokyo, a high school graduate. Income is less than 3 million yen. Eiji. So Eiji Kakihana. Eiji is our 41-year-old cleaner. Which, I get that. I get the struggle, my dude. Okay. And then he changes his income to like 20 million and puts it away. So if I want to do into USD just to know a comparison, if I did 1, 2, 3. Okay, so he was saying basically he had on there his income was about 20,000 a year, which yes, for a janitor I could believe that. And then he changes it to 20 million, which is 137,000 a year, which is a wee bit of difference. A wee bit of difference. But these guys all know each other, whether they've known each other from living near each other or just being locals. So he's like, Kakihana, how are you feeling? He's like, aside from my back, not bad. Okay. He says, Otakawa called me a quack. He's like, could you guys talk to him? Tell him to go to a bigger hospital. So they ask if something's wrong with him. And they basically point out that he's always been eccentric and always been a little bit strange. And they're like, he's twisted. But the doctor says it's something more fundamental, but doesn't really go into detail about what that is. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. And so Diamond was the person I talked about seeing the other day. He said something odd. He thought Otakawa might be involved in the Narima missing person case. I don't know who Daimon is, but I don't know. They said they heard Otakawa talking to someone when he supposedly lives alone. I like the kangaroo kind of points out like, well, he could have been on the phone. We really don't know. And the police are looking for Dobu. So Dobu is the monkey that's the criminal. We don't know who Daimon is. Maybe Daimon's the cop. We don't know. All these characters we're kind of getting to know. He beat up a group of thugs who got drunk and rowdy at a club by himself. And he knocked down an underground martial artist with a single move. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I bet biotechnology is the only thing that can beat him. I like to just randomly talk about that. But yeah. Just between us, I guess he won't be upset. I like that one guy asks her to marry him. She's like, no. And then they talk about money, saying money is the product of a person's abilities, which is a way to look at things. That's for sure. I mean, to be honest, I don't think salary is a deal breaker when it comes to marriage. Like, if you, I want to try to phrase it this way. I think personally that it's not just necessarily money that would determine someone's potential as a partner, but it is like, do they have ambition and are they like hardworking? And if they're hardworking and ambitious and just have like an average job, that's fine. But if they sit around all day and do nothing, then that's a no. That's a hard no. So I could see why she would think that way. You don't know true love, ma'am. Don't list something obvious like it's one of the 3 non-nuclear principles. I love it. So yeah, they have a great time. And then the one nurse calls the doctor and says that there's medicine missing. Psychotropic drugs, about 6,000 pills. Which I'm sure she's peddling on the street. Uh-huh. She's like, oh, you remembered me. You're the only alpaca around me. Curious. And then we see Dobu. Okay. And Dobu meets with the one cop he's out of his uniform, just in a regular suit. And they exchange the SD card for the money. Okay. Oh. So much setup. So much setup. I'm so curious. I really like Otakawa so far. I think he's a character that you can instantly be magnetized towards, but he's also kind of mysterious. And so you're like, is he a good guy? Should we trust him? What eccentricities does he have? Why is everybody wary of him? So interesting. And then we're meeting all these other characters as well and getting to know them a little bit. I don't trust that alpaca any further than I can spit. I'm so excited. So my one thing on the channel is I love to hear your comments down below. I love to hear your thoughts. Just please do a spoiler tag and give me a warning if there's going to be spoilers. And just make sure not to give me any hints or clues as what's to come, because I'll find out in the show. But with that being said, I'm so excited to see what episode 2 is going to be like. It's going to be hard to wait before diving in. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Odd Taxi. Bye!